Welcome to BBC London. I'm Assad Ahmed. This is what's on tonight.
I'm not a murderer. I didn't have nothing to do with it.
Jailed for life, two brothers who murdered a man described as a gentle giant in North London more than 40 years ago.
He was a kind soul, and to die in such a horrendous way, it's just, so unfair, and it made me very, very angry that he'd been treated like that.
Find out how the police went undercover to find the killers. Also on the programme, we hear from the daughter whose father was treated by a lung doctor at a London hospital. The doctor was found to have caused serious harm to patients.
As Arthur Fairy bows out of Wimbledon with pride, I'll look back at a remarkable fortnight for the Londoner and ahead to tomorrow's World Cup quarter-final.
And a big day for baldies. Will London break the record for the biggest gathering of bald caps in the world? Good evening. Two brothers have been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of a man in East Finchley in 1984. Anthony Littler had stepped off the train just a few minutes before he lay dying on the ground near the station. It was a homophobic attack by Michael and Anthony Stewart, although there's no evidence to suggest Mr. Littler was gay. You may find some of the details in Guy Lynn's report upsetting. It starts with news footage from the time.
Police are appealing for help in their search for the killer of 45-year-old civil servant Anthony Littler. His body was found in an alleyway near East Finchley Underground Station on Monday evening.
At 6'4", his friends called him the gentle giant. Just after midnight on the 1st of May 1984, Anthony Littler stepped off the tube at East Finchley, taking a shortcut home down this narrow, unlit alley. He was bludgeoned to death, police said at the time, by someone or a group.
Brutal, callous, very aggressive. Mr. Littler entered that alleyway, minding his own business, and he was set upon them for no reason. The blows rendered him unconscious almost immediately, and then he fell to the ground and sadly passed away.
Hi, Tricia.
Hello, Guy.
Nice to meet you.
Pleased to meet you. Do come in.
Thanks very much.
Okay, do you want to go
How's the
through?
door?
Okay. Haven't got very many because
No, well, it'd be
we
really
didn't
the
take photographs,
1980s.
Yes, we didn't take as many photographs in those days, but there are a few nice ones in this album.
I've come to the Wirral near Liverpool to meet one of Anthony Littler's few surviving relatives.
Although he was a lot older than me, he was a bit like a big brother in a way, and he was always there at family birthdays and he was always there at Christmas. Something like, Anthony's dead, he's been murdered, and I thought, no, can't be. Because it's the kind of thing that you read about in the paper. It doesn't happen to your family. He was a kind soul, and to die in such a horrendous way, it's just, so unfair, and it made me very, very angry that he'd been treated like that and not able to defend himself.
But no one was caught, and over 40 years, the family just lost hope.
I've resigned myself to the fact, that he was gone and they hadn't caught the perpetrators, and it sort of just left a sadness that was always there, that surfaced every Christmas when he wasn't there, when he should have been there for my eldest daughter because he's her godfather, things like that.
With the help of a lookalike, we've reconstructed in daylight the events leading up to the crime.
The case featured on the BBC's Crime Watch in 1984. It was reopened in 1993 and then 2012, but nothing.
There was missing paperwork, quite a lot of that, missing exhibits. There was no CCTV, no forensics. Every witness that we wanted to speak to sadly passed away.
Yet the police had met the killers in 1984 without knowing. Officers knocked on a door near the alley, the Stewart family home. Michael Stewart on the left, 15 at the time, and his brother, Anthony, 18. They said they'd been at home that night. Police moved on. Nearly 30 years later, after a bitter family row, a younger brother went to police and alleged the pair had confessed about the killing. The case was reopened in 2022, but now the Metropolitan Police had a bold plan to go undercover. The police won't discuss the detail of the undercover operation, But court documents show that listening devices were attached to Michael Stewart's car and put in his home, and that 2 undercover officers befriended him. One agent called JJ, who got chatting about a broken lift in his block. The other, Anna, befriending him in a cafe. And Michael Stewart started talking. I know who it was. It was my brother and 3 of his mates. They were gay bashing. The victim, he said, was smashed over the head. And to Anna, it was my brother. The court heard there was no evidence Anthony Littler was gay. Michael Stewart later told police he'd just been at the top of the alley as a lookout. More than 40 years on, the moment he was finally arrested.
I'm not a murderer. I didn't have nothing to do with it. I was 14. I don't care. Stop talking now. I was 14 years old when this happened. Listen.
The jury didn't believe him. He and his brother were found guilty of the murder of Anthony Littler in 1984. Michael Stewart was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 10 years. Anthony Stewart also life, with a minimum of 15. The judge at the Old Bailey said she was in no doubt the motivation for the murder was perceived hostility to homosexual men, and that they targeted a decent, honest individual and took his life.
How dare you? You ruined my cousin's life, and you've had a nice life, I assume. I'm beginning to feel very emotional inside again because it's obviously brought it all back to me. But I am beginning to feel that at long last, he has got a closure, and he hasn't had it for 42 years.
And what does that mean to you to have that, to use that word, closure?
It's a sense of relief that justice has finally been done. It's not going to take away the upset, it's not going to bring him back, but at least, you know, justice has been served. They've got the blighters.
Guy Lynn, BBC London.
Well, if you do want more details on that BBC London investigation, you can read about it. The piece is on the BBC News website. Well, this is your news for London and the home counties. Still to come tonight. From coach to cabbie, meet the man who trained one of London's football superstars as we look ahead to England's World Cup clash with Norway in less than 28 hours' time. A Metropolitan Police officer who was previously cleared of raping 2 women has been sentenced to 7 years in prison for another rape. PC Rupert Edwards raped a woman at a New Year's Eve party in 2018. The victim reported it to police 5 years later. And in their investigation, officers were helped by the 2 women PC Edwards was already cleared of attacking. Our Home Affairs correspondent is Sonia Jessup. You've been following this case.
Yeah, and so as you say, this attack happened more than 8 years ago. The woman, who's a police officer herself, had been at a New Year's Eve party. She'd been drinking heavily. She fell asleep on a sofa and she only has vague recollections of what happened next. But she remembered, she said, a taxi ride with Rupert Edwards and thinking it's strange that he'd not left the vehicle before her. The court heard he diverted an Uber that was booked to go to his house to take them to her house. And she then remembered waking up in her own bed next to him, both of them naked. And she said he'd made a crass comment saying that they had had sex, which she said she was disgusted by, as she said she hadn't consented to this, and that he later sent her a text suggesting that they have a further sexual encounter.
And as I mentioned earlier, Edwards was previously accused of rape by 2 other women.
That's right. In fact, we have some footage, I think, of him leaving court at one of those earlier hearings. He's wearing a face mask. Now, he was acquitted of rape in both those cases. However, the victim in this case then decided to come forward and report what happened to her in October 2023. And the evidence heard in both those previous trials was then permitted to be heard in her case. Now, in May, Edwards was found guilty of 1 count of rape against her. He's been suspended from the Met since 2022. He was recently sacked following his conviction. Today, he was jailed for 7 years at South Southwark Crown Court. And in a statement read out on the victim's behalf in court, she said that this attack had left her numb. She said it left her with no purpose, pride or passion in her own job as a police officer. But she said that she had felt a strong sense of responsibility to make sure that he couldn't harm others. Now, both the Met and the Crown Prosecution Service have praised her for coming forward. Edwards. The CPS said it hoped the sentence would bring some comfort to all of the women affected by Edwards' conduct, and it said it was because of their evidence that he has been brought to justice.
OK, Sonia Jessup, thanks for bringing us those details. Now, the cases of more than 200 patients treated for lung conditions at St Helier Hospital in Sutton are to be reviewed after a report found serious failings in the care provided by their consultant. The Royal College of Physicians found 3 people may have died prematurely and others suffered permanent harm after treatment by Dr. Veronica Varney. Our reporter Wendy Hurrell has been hearing from the daughter of a patient whose case is being reviewed.
He was a big character, jovial, fun. Yeah, he was just a hard-working, kind of down-to-earth guy.
Charlotte's dad, Mark, died last January. He had an autoimmune disease called sarcoidosis that initially affected his lungs, and he was treated at St Helier Hospital by Dr. Veronica Varney.
I don't feel that she showed like the professional curiosity that you would expect from a consultant, and just felt quite dismissed and belittled.
The Royal College of Physicians report found that Dr. Varney prescribed treatments to patients that had no scientific evidence, while proven drugs were withheld. Dr. Varney's representative told us she had no comment. Dr. Richard Jennings at St George's Epsom and St Helier's Group apologised to the families, saying the care they received fell far below what should have been given, while the Royal College of Physicians report makes it clear that patients were significantly harmed. It also expresses confidence in the changes we had already made to make the service safe, and we have accepted and acted on all of their recommendations. Charlotte sought legal advice when she got a letter this week saying that her father's case will now be reviewed by the hospital. Her solicitor says the investigation doesn't go far enough.
Ultimately, these families want transparency in line with the duty of candour. They want accountability, and at this stage the families are hesitant as to whether they've got it. What independent oversight is going to happen in relation to those further investigations? Otherwise, is it not just effectively the NHS marking their own homework?
Charlotte is encouraging other families to come forward with their concerns.
Nothing that we do or the hospital does now is going to bring him back. But there's strength in numbers, and I think it's important that everybody has access to the truth and to understand what happened, and to know how they're going to improve it and make sure that other people aren't let down in the same way.
Wendy Hurrell, BBC London.
And now look at some other stories making the headlines today. 4 people have been arrested after violent clashes on Edgware Road last night following Morocco's defeat to France in the World Cup. Police say they're trawling CCTV footage to find people involved. One officer was hit with a bottle and was taken to hospital. On Portobello Road in West London, a man has been arrested after a teenager was stabbed overnight. The 19-year-old victim remains in hospital. A 25-year-old man is in custody, arrested on suspicion of GBH and violent disorder. And the London Fire Brigade say we face an extreme wildfire risk this weekend. The brigade is urging people not to use disposable barbecues in parks and to bin cigarettes and rubbish carefully. So the local Londoner who's been playing top tennis at the Wimbledon Championships while staying at home down the road is out. The brilliant Arthur Ferry lost in the semi-final to Alexander Zverev, but he's got nothing to be disappointed about. Ferry has had a stunning tournament. Let's cross now live to Chris Legg, who's at Wimbledon. And Chris, so much for Ferry to be proud of.
Yeah, Asad, that is so true. Ultimately, the fairy tale, as it's been christened here, is over. I think most people expected that it would be over today, playing an opponent of that quality. But what beautiful memories he has given us unexpected memories too over these last 12 days. But today, Alexander Zverev ultimately...
It's your best. So for him, it's been a huge success.
And even in that third set, when the match was slipping away, there were some moments where he showed his quality.
Well, he didn't just go away. You know, he lost in 3 straight sets to an unbelievable player who's playing the best tennis of his life. And it's an amazing feat by him.
Well, John, it's great to get your thoughts on what's been an incredible sporting story here over the last fortnight. Within the last few minutes, in fact, Yannick Sinner has beaten Novak Djokovic, so he will be in the final against Zverev on Sunday. But all of us here, will never forget what Arthur Ferry achieved here at Wimbledon over the last 12 days. Assad.
Yeah, it's been a sensational couple of weeks for Arthur Ferry, and no one could take anything away from him for that. OK, thanks very much for now, Chris. Now, 5 terrapins and a turtle. It's not the start of a joke. They're called the Barbican... They've been called the Barbican Conservatory home for decades, but are moving on to make way for major upgrade work. Before heading off, Tolu Adoye went to see them, and their names might just sound familiar.
It's moving day for Thomas the Turtle and his team. Harry, Jude, Anthony, Bakayo and Leah, all recently named during the World Cup, in case you wondered. They've been living in the Barbican Conservatory for decades, brought over from Hampstead Heath in the 1990s.
We think that what happened was they were abandoned there off the back of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle craze, when people bought loads of terrapins and turtles as pets and actually realised very quickly they didn't have the skills to look after them. So we rescued them and brought them over to our conservatory.
Are you going to miss them?
Oh, we'll miss them enormously. They've become really important mascots of the centre. I have to say, we've become very attached, and so we're hoping to go and visit them actually in their new home if we can.
Thomas and team are being rehomed to allow for the restoration of the conservatory, part of a wider £231 million Barbican renewal project. The space should reopen in 2030, just ahead of the Barbican's 50th anniversary.
We'll be re-waterproofing the whole conservatory so it doesn't leak into our theatre any longer, and making it fully accessible so everyone can enjoy it. We're going to make it more sustainable with passive control measures and just generally making it a happier environment for plants and people.
Despite their names, the terrapins are all female.
So what does it take to rehome these little ladies?
Well, it's fairly straightforward. They're in a cardboard box with air holes. They have damp tissue in the bottom so that they can bury under it, so it keeps them less stressed while they're travelling. Although they're in water most of the time, they are actually reptiles, not amphibians, so some people think they should transport them in water. You can't do that because they've got lungs and they can in fact drown, so you always transport them dry.
OK. And are they quite happy today?
All I can say is this guy is not stressed at all because she wouldn't have her head out otherwise.
So it's farewell to the Barbican Conservatory and on to sanctuaries in Bedfordshire and Tunbridge after decades living in central London's biggest glass house. Tolu Adeoye, BBC London.
Now, you might not know this gentleman's face, but you might know his music.
I'm a fireball.
It's US rapper Pitbull, I didn't know the music, whose fans are today attempting to break an unusual world record in Hyde Park. It's for the largest gathering of people wearing bald caps. Apparently, it's become a social media phenomenon. We asked some of the fans arriving earlier why they're taking part.
It's just so fun, isn't it? Where else would you get this kind of atmosphere? And tell me a bit about the dressing up. You just got to do it, right? You can't come here and not do it.
Very excited.
So excited.
Dale.
We've been prepping for hours now.
No way, tell me about the prep.
Well, you got the most.
Yeah, I got a lot of hair, so I slicked it back, loads of hair gel, wig cap, bald cap, deodorant, all of the works.
All the TikTok dances as well, getting the reels ready, like 20 recordings for each reel, so we're ready to go.
Have you brought a bald cap with you as well?
No, don't need it.
Yeah, but you don't qualify, did you know that?
Yeah, I know, I think that's discrimination, to be honest. Look, I've got no hair.
It's all year for that,
yeah,
by the way, yes.
Well, since the age of 20, but yeah.
Well, those are some of the fans turning up. Well, earlier we caught up with our reporter Yasmin Rufo, who insisted on wearing the headgear herself.
Well, it all started earlier this year when Radio 1 DJ Greg James texted Pitbull live on air and said that when he was next in the UK, they needed to mark the momentous occasion. And that momentous occasion is happening here tonight in Hyde Park. We've got 70,000 fans donning one of these, the bald caps, in the hope to look just like the rapper himself. Now, the reason for this, I mean, ultimately they're trying to break the Guinness World Record for the number of bald caps worn in one particular area. So what will happen shortly is there'll be a 1-minute timer where everyone has to keep that bald cap on. And there are certain rules and regulations around it. So you can't have your hair in front of your face. It has to be tucked back, and you have to be wearing it during that 1 minute to be part of that count. And there are hundreds of volunteers here today clicking people in as they come. There are drones that will also be counting bald heads. So it's a real big feat. And as you can imagine, Pitbull is just absolutely delighted. He's thanked his baldy fans, especially those in the UK who have started that trend. It's a trend that actually only started last year when he came to Europe for his concert and fans started wearing that bald cap. So he's just absolutely delighted that that trend is continuing tonight. And I imagine that almost all of those 70,000 people will be wearing the bald cap.
Yasmin Rufo there. Let's get the weather forecast now. And Jennifer, hot days, but hot nights as well.
Yes, that's one of the questions that people have been asking me the most over the last couple of days is when is it going to cool down at night? So let's actually start by having a look at some of these overnight temperatures. These are the temperatures at 5 in the morning. So at 5 o'clock this morning, temperatures at Heathrow weren't lower than 21 degrees Celsius. Now, they're going to be coming down a little bit in the coming days, but still a lot of residual heat in the buildings. It's still going to be feeling hot at night. And then next week, those temperatures go up again. So this heat wave is continuing and it's going to be staying dry, sunny and hot as we head through the course of the weekend. So through this evening and overnight, clear skies. It is going to be another warm night, not quite as warm as last night, but these are the temperatures around 15 to 17 degrees Celsius in central London. Now, tomorrow morning, a dry, fine start. Lots of sunshine, of course, high UV levels as well. And we do have a little bit of a northeasterly breeze. So the further east that you are, the slightly cooler it will be. But we're still looking at temperatures in the 30s, 32 degrees Celsius possible through Saturday afternoon. Here's Saturday night into Sunday then. A little bit more of a breeze, a little bit more cloud. And those temperatures overnight still 14 to 16 degrees. So they're coming down a little bit, but it is still going to be feeling pretty warm. And no big changes on Sunday as well. Again, it's a dry day, lots of sunshine and those temperatures through the afternoon, maybe around 29 to 30 degrees. So it is feeling ever so slightly cooler. I suspect not so much that you will notice. And this is the outlook then as we head into next week. Those temperatures still hovering around 28, 29 degrees. So the heat wave is not going away, I said.
No, some warm temperatures remaining. OK, thanks for that, Jennifer. That's it. I'll be back with our late news after the football. Bye for now.